Welcome to the Property Elite podcast. I'll be your host, Jen Lehman, chartered surveyor and co-founder of Property Elite. Stay tuned each week for more on industry hot topics, market updates and new RICS guidance. In this week's blog, we discuss dampness in buildings. It's essential listening for any candidates with building pathology or inspectionist technical competencies. And this is part one of a 3-part blog and podcast series. So what is dampness in buildings? Simply put, dampness in buildings is moisture that shouldn't be there. This affects both residential and commercial property and is the most frequently reported problem that surveyors become involved with. Damp is a problem because the moisture will expand and contract as temperatures fluctuate, causing cracks and the degradation of materials over time. It enables moulds to grow and is therefore detrimental to health. Its presence is linked to attack from boring insects, and more about this in a later podcast and blog. Damp timber can be subject to wet and dry rot attack, leading to significant problems in the property. It results in visible wetting of walls, ceilings and floors, blistering paint, bulging plaster and sulfate attack. And finally, it can also lead to less obvious problems, such as thermal insulation being reduced in effectiveness or brickwork cracks because metal components embedded in it have corroded. So, what are the legal implications of dampness? On the 20th of March 2020, the Homes Fitness for Human Habitation Act 2018 came into full effect, establishing in English law the right of a tenant to enjoy a fit demise free of excessive damp or condensation. Then, in May, the High Court determined in Hart v Large 2020 that a residential pre-purchase report surveyor who failed to identify a damp defect was guilty of professional negligence. Now that damp and condensation are defined against fitness for human habitation under the 2018 Act, the format of technical documents and standards such as BS 5250-2011 A1 2016, Code of Practice for Control of Condensations in Buildings, and BRE DG 245 Digest, Rising Damp in Walls, Diagnosis and Treatment, will come under much greater scrutiny. We also have the new RICS joint position statement that we'll be looking at in a future blog article. The risk assessment approach used by environmental health officers under the Housing Health and Safety Rating System, established under the Housing Act 2004, is of little help to surveyors either in pre-purchase or landlord and tenant disrepair claims, as the lack of environmental health enforcement is of no defence under the legislation. There are 4 major recognised forms of dampness: rising damp, penetrating damp with a subcategory called falling damp, condensation and flooding, which we will not be dealing with in this blog and podcast. Although for hundreds of years it's been known that most construction materials absorb moisture and that a small amount of moisture present in a material should not be of concern, damp is still widely misdiagnosed and understood by surveyors. Level 2 surveys and technical due diligence surveys are not specific damp surveys. They're a snapshot of the building in time and normally do not include opening up works. The over-reliance on damp meters and the lack of understanding of the limitations in their use has resulted in misdiagnosis in many cases. Surveyors sometimes do not have permission to undertake even minor puncturing of wall finishes above skirting level and are almost certainly not given permission to drill holes in the plaster to enable the use of deep probes on the damp meter in the initial survey. There's also commercial pressure on fees, time on site and to write reports, resulting in damp problems being recommended for specialist investigation by commercial damp proofing companies, whose main interest is often selling products and services. There's also a lack of understanding of the construction scene and not being aware that chemically injected damp-proof courses have a lifespan of around 20 years, so any chemical DPC noted may simply be ineffective due to its age. So that's it for part 1. In the next blog and podcast part 2, we'll be focusing specifically on rising damp, misdiagnosis, and how to diagnose types of dampness accurately and reliably. Thanks for listening to the Property Elite podcast this week. Head to our website to check out our full blog, free and paid support resources and services, free consultation for every single RICS APC and ASOC RICS candidate, and also ask us any questions you have via the website chat blog. See you next week.